Okay, brilliant. So, for those of you who were expecting to hear Matt Davis, I am not Matt Davis. My name is Thomas Rickard. So Matt and I are colleagues in the office. Um, this is very much a joint venture between Matt and I. We basically rotate who runs these sessions. So we do run 2 training sessions a week. And just if you're not familiar or if you don't know what sort of training sessions are coming up, just shoot me an email afterwards. Or if you check my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the schedule view. So whatever way is easier for you. In regards to today, what we're going to look at is purely the recruiter tools. So we're going to run a lot of searches. I'm going to show you what to do after you've run searches. Um, sorry guys, some people I can hear. Perfect. I'll show you what to do after you run searches. So I have a very short presentation. It's literally about 4 slides, and then I'm going to actually log into the tool. Some people are saying they can't see my screen. One moment. Guys, can somebody just confirm if you can see my screen? I just want to see if this is one person or if it's everybody. Can somebody just pop it in the chat box if you can see my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, so maybe it's just one person. Let me just reply. Oh, perfect. Yeah, this is the short agenda, so I'm going to review the key points. We will do a live demo, which will be the majority of this morning. So this morning I arranged it for 50 minutes, so I do have a lot to go through, so I'm trying to speak fast for the moment. When I log in, I'm just going to show you the benefits and go through some of the less obvious hints and tips that are being used. There's been some changes to the tool. So those of you who have joined the session who are just looking for like a refresher, or maybe you just have a recruiter seat, you won't see the changes that I'm about to show you, but you will within the next 2 weeks. So it's by the end of September that these changes will happen on your side. I obviously just have them because I work for LinkedIn. Okay, so there's a lot of things that LinkedIn do that I don't necessarily agree with. However, there are a lot of things that LinkedIn do that is really good. And one of them being is LinkedIn constantly send out surveys to our members, so anybody who uses our products, and they genuinely listen to feedback. There's a lot of examples where LinkedIn have removed certain functionality from tools, and then based on feedback, they brought the functionality back. So my point here is there's a lot of common sort of themes that come back when we send out surveys in regards to recruiter products. So every change that we've made, including the one I'm going to show you, basically what we're trying to do is make you guys happy and cover the 3 options you see on screen here. So the common themes that we would get back is you guys just want to work faster. You want to discover new talent, so stop seeing the same people over and over again, and then identify warm leads. So obviously it's a lot easier to have a conversation with someone who would be, let's say, open to someone who would not necessarily be open. So if you think about this from a sales point of view, it's a lot easier to have a sales conversation with a warm lead than it would be to just a complete cold call. At any point, guys, if you have any questions, just pop them through the chat box. If I'm able to sort of pick up on it mid-flow, I will. If not, I will pause for questions, so I'll come back to it. So I'm going to share this presentation with everybody, and you'll also get a recording. It's why I'm going to sort of fly through these slides. There is more than one way of searching on LinkedIn. There's actually 3 different methods that you can use. The reason that we want to have more than one is we don't want you to just be an expert in one way. And depending what you're searching for, one particular method may be more beneficial than the other method. So the example you see on screen here, which is just our guided search, it's literally when you type in a job title. It's our most popular and the most basic way, and that's absolutely fine. There are 2 others. I'm going to show you the 2 others when we log in, but very briefly. I'm going to spend most of the time going through the guided search. I'm going to just skip by this slide if you don't mind, because I'm going to show you how to log into the tool, and same with this one. So I'm going to basically change over now. I just use the presentation as an introduction. I don't want to spend too much time because I want to actually show you what we're going to do. You can read this sort of details after when you get the presentation. Okay, let me just change over my screen. I'm not going to ask if you have any questions. I haven't really done anything yet.
We are getting ready for questions. Hello.
Oh, hello. Okay.
Sorry, it took a couple of minutes to connect by phone. That's why we were quiet so far.
No problem. So if you don't mind just popping yourself on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Adika?
Yeah, no, you don't have to unmute yourself, guys. You can just use the chat box. Did the screen change over? Can somebody just pop that in the chat box? You should see my LinkedIn, and I'm going to open the recruiter tool now. Somebody just pop it through the chat box. Can you see my screen? Right, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so there is a lot to the recruiter tools, and really the idea of today is to get you up and running if you've never used the tools before, or if you're just looking for a refresher, basically just to show you what's new, I suppose. This is your activity page. The more you use the tool, the more busy this page becomes. The left-hand side, it's all some recent searches that I've done, and so I've saved some searches, so these are all new profiles that have been added. On the right-hand side, it's all the projects that I've been working on. As I mentioned, so the more you use the recruiter tools, this page will become a lot busier. But something that I want you to remember about this page is I'm going to show you how to create alerts on through the recruiter search option. I'm going to show you how to create alerts. And when you create alerts, this is where your alerts pop up. So if I had an alert or a reminder set for today, it would pop up here. Okay, so I mentioned there's 3 ways of searching. The first is what you've seen in the presentation, which is called a guided search. So if I just type in a job title, I type in sales, you see I get these options. This is LinkedIn trying to help you. So when you type in the word sales, you see we get Guys, can you just make sure you're on mute, please? Perfect. So when you type in the word, you'll see you get a drop down. This is LinkedIn telling you that people with the word sales in their title, generally the following word comes next. So the most popular on LinkedIn at the moment are sales specialist, sales manager, and salesperson. So that's LinkedIn saying to you, here is a talent pool. So where possible, select from one of these drop downs. And then I will keep it to Romania. The reason I'm picking Romania, I was recently there and I ran a different session yesterday and I used Romania as an example. So let's just stick with that. It really doesn't make a difference. So all I've done is I've selected a job title and I've selected country and then go. Before I go any further, a quick point on this, if there anybody from Romania is on the phone, I know these seem like typical Romanian names. Due to GDPR, I have to use like a masking tool. So the profiles are real, just what is fake is the picture and the name. So it's completely at random. The names are all fake and the pictures are fake, but the actual profiles are real. So obviously if you ran this search, you would see their actual information. So this is our search results. Seems complicated, it's genuinely not. There's a logic behind the mess, let's say. So on the left-hand side, all of these filters, if I click on advanced, I get about 25 more. So this seems very convoluted, very complicated. It's not. So in truth, you're only ever going to use about half of them. The reason that there are so many is depending on what you're trying to achieve in the tool. You know, some people may like this option, other people may not like this option. The obvious ones that you're going to use would be the location one here. You're going to add your skills. Maybe if you want people with experience in particular companies. You've got your industry field by clicking advanced. Then I have, where is it? Years of experience and years in current company. They're kind of the obvious ones. There's a lot more. I'm going to show you a few in a moment. I'll just show you what I think are the most important important ones outside of the obvious. I'm not going to show you how to toggle years of experience. It's pretty obvious how to do that. So this is your result. So all we've done is we've ran a pretty basic search here. Sales manager, we've only selected one location. We haven't added anything else. Now, I'm not going to search for a perfect candidate here. That's not the goal of today's session. So I'm just at random going to toggle some options. Realistically, what we're trying to do is make this number here, so 32,000, we're trying to make it a manageable number. Realistically, I mean, you're never going to look at 32,000 people. You will know in your own head what's a manageable number of profiles if you have a position to fill. I'm just going to at random try and toggle some options here just to get the number down. It is on the presentation. I said I was going to quickly go by it. You'll notice underneath all of these there's blue. So these are, I suppose, the top suggestions based on what I've searched for. So under job title, we can see key account manager. There's about 20 different ways that you work in sales, so these will all be quite common. Key account manager, then we have account manager. So it's LinkedIn basically just trying to help you expand or narrow your search depending on what you're trying to do. Let me get rid of these. Likewise with location, I only selected Romania. If I really wanted to drill down a bit more, which I will because this is going to get the number down, I can go in Bucharest. Actually, I'll pick Cluj because that's a lot less. That's easier to work with. There we are. So in Cluj, sales managers is just over 1,000. That's perfect. We're going to keep on going. In terms of skills, once again, it's pretty obvious. I'm not going to show you. You don't have to select from these, by the way. Sorry, just to let you know, you can type in your own. So what one is not there? Negotiation, sales manager, and team manager. Let's say project work. So here we go. Project. So project management, let's say. Perfect. Did that number go down? It should have. Yeah, perfect. 264. So you can go through all of these yourself, but just to give you a bit of an idea about what to do. So let's say this was a real search. I'm looking for a sales manager in Cluj. The only skill I want them to have is project management. I've got 264 profiles. That's probably manageable. Depending on how fast you work, that's probably a good number. So now what do you do? So there are some key parts to the tool. So I want to just highlight the top three, so these three options up here. These are what are called spotlights. So I mentioned in the presentation that the common theme that we get back is you want to work faster and identify warm leads. Well, these are your warm leads. So I'll go through them one at a time and explain. So out of 264 in this search, 78, 52, and 12. So 78 people are more likely to respond to your in-mail. What that means is LinkedIn have identified 78 people out of this number, and those people are just really active on LinkedIn. They're like super users and just active in every way possible. So like liking, sharing statuses, commenting, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily interested in whatever role you have. It's just they're so active on LinkedIn, we feel that you're more likely to get a response from them. The next two would be sort of your, although they're all warm leads, the next two are specifically hot. So this one is probably the coolest part of the recruiter tool, so open to new opportunities. On your own personal LinkedIn profile, there's an option to select a toggle which says that you are open to a new opportunity. So what it means is 52 people out of this search have said and turned this option on that they're open and willing to speak to me about a new opportunity, and they have selected sales manager in Cluj. So they are extremely warm leads. These guys are all actively seeking new opportunity. A quick few points on this. So a common question I always get asked is how accurate is this? It's extremely accurate. In fact, you can't turn it on by mistake. When you toggle this button on your personal LinkedIn profile, you get a big pop-up on screen saying you've just turned it on. You also get an email saying you've turned it on. So it can't be done by mistake. And also, well, I mean, it can be done, but surely you'll see one of those banners and then you'll turn it off. But also, when you contact these people, so if you send them an in-mail, If they don't respond to you after 1 week, LinkedIn contact them and we basically say, hey, you have an email sitting here from Thomas, you said you're open to a new opportunity, so either reply to the message or turn open to opportunities off. So we're trying to keep it as up to date as possible. And then the last one, this is a little bit different. So if I was in the room now, so when I do sort of workshops face to face, I always ask the audience, what does this mean? I'm not going to ask you guys. Engage with your talent brand. So those of you on the call who have a company page on LinkedIn, I'd assume everybody has a company page. Some people may have a career page on LinkedIn. But from your company page, there would be people who are posting content, maybe videos or pictures or just articles. These are the people who are commenting on those posts and liking and sharing those posts. So engage with your talent brand is just a different way of saying speaking to your company. So statistically, you're more likely to get a response from this group because they're aware of your company and they're also speaking to your company. Here you'll see another one also, which is past applicants, so you can check out who was actually previously applied for your company. So they're what we call spotlights. The reason we call them spotlights, if you think about a car and your spotlight, it's meant to sort of stick out. This is where I would start my search after going through all the filters here and making it, ever perfect. This is where I would start my search. The whole concept of using the recruiter tools is obviously to find talent, but also once you've found that talent, what do you do? It's all about that initial email, that initial engagement. You're not trying, to sell them the dream on the first engagement. You're just trying to get, in the first email, you're just trying to get them to respond. You're just trying to get engagement. And from that response, you do your thing. You set up a face-to-face interview or a phone call, whatever it is. But if just statistically, you're more likely to get a response from these three groups because they're warm. Now, don't narrow your effort to just these three, but if certainly if you're using the tool for the first time and you just want to sort of get a little bit better and get a little bit more familiar and a bit more confident, I suppose, this is where I would start my search. Okay, I'm not going to click on these, but as you click on them, you'll just see the amount. If I click on here, I'll just see the 52. If I click on this, I'll just see the 12, but there's no point clicking on them. Okay, so I'm just going to pause briefly. Any questions on that, guys, before I move on? So we haven't really looked at much. So we ran our search. In an ideal world, I'm not going to do it now, but you'd go through all of these filters. You'd put in your years of experience, etc., etc. I'm not going to do that now. There's no point. And then just briefly explain what these spotlights are. Any questions on that? Just pop anything through the chat box. Okay, no problem. I'll move on swiftly then. So I'm just going to go through a few more of the filters which I think are really important but less commonly used. Also, if you're using the tool for the first time, you will see that the left-hand side of your tool looks different to the left-hand side of my tool. For the reason being that this is memory-based. So you'll see earlier when I clicked on advanced, I get 25 more options. As you use these options, when you next log in, they will appear on the left-hand side. So LinkedIn is basically just trying to learn from your preferences. If you think again on the presentation, there were some common themes, and one of them was to work faster. So LinkedIn is trying to basically just learn. So what I'm going to show you now is just the less commonly used ones. I'm not going to show you the ones which are obvious. And what I mean by obvious once again is years of experience. So this one you can just toggle how much years of experience. Years in current position maybe would be important. So there's no point me going through them. They're pretty obvious. The less obvious ones which are used is a common question I always get is, I keep seeing the same profiles over and over again. Well, now you can get rid of them by clicking here, hide previously viewed, which means if there's anybody appearing in this particular search that I've looked at already, if I toggle this button, they would just be removed, which means I'm just looking at fresh profiles. Also, underneath this one here, recruiting activity. So as you use the tool more, obviously your recruiting activity will increase, but you can very quickly establish when you run a search, if you've contacted people before, or maybe you've added people to a project from that search. So you can basically eliminate them, or you can just highlight them so you can look at them again. It's up to you, but just this is another tool. This is a less commonly used filter, but I don't know why, because in truth it's going to make your life a little bit easier if you don't have to look at the same profiles. Or maybe you just want to highlight people who maybe you've left notes on before. Maybe you've said, you know what, these are really good, they're just not quite a right fit for this role, or whatever notes you leave. You can just quickly establish from your search people you've looked at already. Another cool tip to use is, particularly with hard to fill roles, so very niche roles. So throughout my particular region, which is Central and Eastern Europe, the hot topic is always IT, people in the IT space, engineers, developers, scripts engineers, everything. And a great tip I always give them is we run searches, and we go through what I've just went through, and then I click on this button here. So people who have recently joined LinkedIn. Now, unfortunately, that's 0, so it's not a great example. So let me try and change this. No, that's not good either. Not good either. Hold on, we'll get one. No, okay, let me do more. I'm just randomly toggling filters here. It will work better if I get a hit here. Oh. No, okay. Let me run a different search and then I'll explain this. We're also looking in just Cluj, so it's pretty specific as well. So maybe that's why, but I'm going to keep it at just Cluj. Let's go. No, okay. Let me get rid of Cluj, guys. Oh, doesn't matter. Okay, so what I always recommend doing is when you run a search, particularly with hard to fill roles. Ah, this is why. Sorry, I'm not clicking on update. Sorry, guys, silly me. I'll explain what I've done now when I go back. Okay, so when you run a search, always check who has recently joined the network. This isn't a great example. I'm not going to do this all day. There we go. I had project management as a skill, and that's why we're getting no results. So let's say I was looking for a software engineer in Romania. Within the past month, 2 people have joined the network, and within the past 3 months, 5 people have joined the network. So if I'm trying to just work a little bit smarter, just be a little bit different, I would contact these people. Number 1 is they probably joined LinkedIn for a reason. And number 2, they're so new they wouldn't have been contacted before. Okay, so that's recently joined. I'm sorry, that example took a lot longer than I wanted it to take. I hope I've sort of made sense here. So we've run our search, all the filters, we have our spotlights. What do you do now? So, all these profiles look fantastic, but what do we do? So you'll see at the top here, it says 1 out of 25, and there's a tick box. So there's 25 profiles per page. I'm just going to tick on this, which will highlight all of the profiles. If you want, you can go through them individually, but I'm just going to highlight this. And you'll notice then I get options here. And I want to concentrate on this one, so save. So I am going to create a new project. So let's put test row. So what we're doing is I'm creating a project and I'm adding those 25 profiles to my project. And this, by the way, is what is new. So this is what you will all see in the next 2 weeks. This was not here up until recently. It used to be a completely different format. So now you'll see this has completely changed. You'll see up here I have test or O. I have a few buttons here. Suddenly the search bar has gone missing. So I'm going to just skip to the next page, which will then make more sense because I've highlighted everybody on the first page. Let me go to page 2. Here we go. So now beside every profile, you'll see save and you'll see hide. And you'll notice here it says pipeline 25. So pipeline is the profiles I've saved to my project. So you'll remember me saying it was everybody on the first page, which is 25, and that's why that number is 25. Realistically now what we're trying to do is go through. So I would look at Dale, you know what, Dave's a good fit, so I'm going to save him. That 25 will change to 26, there we go. Let's say Ellis, let's say, you know what, no, I don't really like to look for a profile, she doesn't suit, I would click hide. Kyle, yeah, good suit. Cameron, good suit. And you notice now we have 28. So that's the logic. This search will save to your project. I don't have to click any buttons. In fact, if I go out of the recruiter tool by mistake, I'll find my project. I don't know if you can see it at the top of the page, but this says projects, and if I highlight it, I can see all of my recent projects. So I just did this one here, test ORO. Now we're in pipeline view. If I click back on talent pool, it will show me the search. And here it is. So the logic is when you've ran your search, you've ran your, you went through everything, the skills, everything that you want, you can either save the project or you can add some profiles to it firstly. So where I click this button to save all the profiles, you don't have to do that. You can just save the project first if you wish. And then you go through the rest of your results. And in fact, you can even make changes to your search from here, and you can either add them or you can hide them, whatever you want. So I'm not going to go through all of them. Now I'm going to show you. So, we've saved 28 profiles in our pipeline here. So let's have a look. And don't forget, if you have any questions, just pop them through the chat box. So here is where we work from. You would have heard, if you've ever been on any other session that Matt and I have ran, you would have heard us talking about collaboration and sort of putting your desk in order. This is your body of work. So this is your workspace. This is all the profiles that I think are a perfect match. I've added them to my pipeline. But here's where you contact them. So you'll see beside all of them it says send email or ask for review. Or if I toggle this button, you'll see I get a few more options. You'll see here. So with your first initial sort of outreach, so everybody within your project, so your saved profiles, these 28, they should all be a perfect fit for the role I'm hiring for. So what I would always recommend doing is your first initial outreach, you can send one to all. So if I click on message, because I've toggled all profiles, if I click on message, they're all included. Now they will not know that they're included. It's completely confidential. They'll think that they're the only ones receiving it. But the message will make sense because they're a perfect fit. Everybody within this project should be a perfect fit. You just type in your salutation. The languages will soon change. We're working on languages. But you put in your salutation and then type in your message. Like I said, they will not know that they're all included. So for your first initial outreach, I would recommend sending one to all. But then as people respond, that is when you make it more personalized. That's when you have an actual conversation with somebody. You'll notice on the right-hand side, I have two buttons. So I'm going to toggle this first one. So you can create templates. So if you always hire for a particular position, you can type in whatever you want and save as a template. No. Save as a template. To find your recent templates are here. So these are ones I've created. You also have access to anybody on your team. So all the ones that your team have created, they're all here. So these are all people within LinkedIn who have created templates. I'm not going to click on them because I have no idea what they say. But once again, just trying to make your life a little bit easier. And then the button underneath, you can also share your calendar with people you're speaking to. So once again, a common message we got back was, it's frustrating, emails back and forth. Are you free on Friday at 3 o'clock? No, I'm not. Schedule another time, so on and so forth. You can actually sync your calendar up to your InMail. And what the candidates can do is they can block out time in your calendar. So they can actually book time into your calendar. It's completely confidential. They won't see at 2 o'clock you're speaking to Thomas. They'll just see available times. And when they're booking it, we'll ask them for information like their email, their phone number, and so on and so forth. However, this is only available on Outlook and Gmail. So I'm sorry if you use any other email provider, but just Outlook and Gmail it's available on. And once again, you don't actually have to do this. It's just if it will make your life easier, people being able to sort of block out time rather than you having to chase after them, then just sync it up. But you don't have to do it. It's just an option. So that's how we email people. I'll quickly just show that again. So of course you can go through and email each person individually by just clicking on send an email. But as I mentioned, for that first initial outreach, call and then message, because it should make sense. And then here you go. Now, once people do start replying, here is where you then can track what you're doing. So let's say Cameron, I would change status to contacted. So you notice the top here changes now. Kyle, let's say I offered him the role. Dale, you see here Dale's open to an opportunity. Let's say he rejected, and so on and so forth. Also, if you're working on a project with a colleague in the office, underneath activity, you would see that if they have also taken action on someone's profile. You can't see an email that a colleague has sent, but you can see notes. You can also see if they've looked at the profile. So in fact, you will see an eyeball here. And when you hover over the eyeball, it would say the name of your colleague, which means they've looked at the profile. If you then click on the profile, you'll see any sort of notes or anything that that colleague has attached. Underneath send in mail, you'll see ask for review. So another cool part of the tool is often, hiring managers would say, if you're looking for a second opinion, or maybe if your manager has said before you reach out to somebody, let me have a look at their profile. So let's say for Cameron, you can of course print the profile if you wish, or if you click on ask for review, you can send the profile to a manager. Now the only action a manager can take is to look at the profile and then leave you some comments. So basically you'll get a message back with maybe a rating out of 10 or some comments. So once again, you don't have to use this, but it's just if you want a second opinion, that's how you do it. Okay, guys, I'm going to pause briefly on the project view. If anybody has any questions on this, just to pop them through the chat box. Okay, perfect. No questions. That's always good. The last filter, which is project details. Here is where you would share it with your colleagues, and then just some other information that if you want to use it. But this is where you would share it with your colleagues. So click on share, and you just type in their message. Okay, let me go back to my search. So I'm just going to click on Dale here, just because he's the first person. Now, as I mentioned, the name and the picture are false, but the actual profile is correct. So this is a real profile, just the name and what would be a picture if I was connected to him are false. So here is your recruiter tools. So I mentioned the very first page. It was important to remember when creating alerts, they would appear on the very first page of the tool. Here is the alerts I'm referring to. So I'm just going to go through 3 of them that I think are important. So the first one, which is reminder. So literally set a reminder to call this guy or do whatever I wish. Put in your comments and then add. So on that day, it would pop up to whatever sort of notes you've left. Next is tags. Tags is a really cool way of building a pipeline, so building a talent pipeline. So tags is an American way of just saying word. So you can add a word to a profile. So for example, let's say I came across Dale's profile and he had really good experience Now you can create your own tags. These tags are pre-populated. I'm just going to randomly pick internal here, but let's pretend that that's a different word and it's like software engineer or something. So let's say I came across Dale's profile and he is really, it's really interesting to me. I just don't have something available right now. So I'm going to add the tag software engineer to his profile, and I'll show you now in a few minutes then how you'd find them again. And then lastly, this little update me button. So if you want to just keep an eye on somebody's profile, so once again, let's say maybe you've spoke to Dale and he said, come back to me in 6 months, I'm happy, or once again, you just came across Dale and you just want to keep an eye on what he does. If you click here, now anytime Dale changes something on his profile, you'll get notification on it, but also if at some point Dale selects that he's open to a new opportunity, do you remember that filter? LinkedIn will contact me and via email, and they will tell me what Dale is, what opportunities he wants to speak about. So I can take action on that in real time once I have this option turned on. Now you can have 150 of these turned on any profile. Your feed, so your activity feed, obviously if you've got 150 of these, will get busy. So try and use it wisely, and then to turn it off, you just click on it again. Okay, so tags. Obviously you can leave notes, guys. So if I left a note here, any of your colleagues, everybody can see the notes you leave, except the person. Dale doesn't have a clue about any of this. So like if I was in contact with Dale and I wanted my colleagues to know about it, that's where you check it. So now I want to go back to my search so I can show you tags. So the logic of tags is eventually you're going to want to use them. You're going to want to find those profiles, and you have access to all your team as well. So any tag that your team add. So let's say, finally I'm looking for that role and I know I've added loads of tags to profile, so I want to find them now. So click on advanced. And tags is down here. So underneath recruiting and candidate activity, here's tag search. So you would then type in whatever tag, whatever word it is that you've added to a collection of profiles, and then they'll appear in your search results. So once again, tags is just a cool way of sort of building a pipeline and keeping track of maybe interesting profiles. Another way you can do it, let me click back into Dale here. Oh no, sorry, doesn't matter. Okay, let me go back to my results. We've got some time left, so I'm going to leave it open now. Has anybody any questions on what I've went through so far? I know I paused a few times, but has anybody any questions on anything I went through? Yeah, just pop it through the chat box if you have a question. So everybody is on mute, guys, so if you have a question, just pop it through the chat box. Just if anybody is trying to type now. The whole idea behind the recruiter tool, and myself and Matt allude to this quite a lot when we're running our workshops, is you have to think a little bit differently when using the tool. So for example, if I was really looking for a software engineer, I wouldn't just type in the word software engineer, because it's too basic, and the chances are, like, my competitors are probably doing the same thing. So if they're looking for software engineers, they're also going to just type in the word software engineer. So what I recommend that you do is try and think laterally about how people would enter that title. So, I mean, in fact, you could just type in the word software, and then you could type in the word engineer, and you will actually get different results. So you'll notice now Dale is not the first person. So it all depends on how people perceive their job title on LinkedIn. So just the advice is, don't just limit yourself to just one word searching. Try and think a little bit different. The great example, and it's why I like to always use it, is like working in sales. There's literally 20 different ways to say that you work in sales. So if you are hiring for someone in a sales position, don't just type in sales representative or sales manager. There's so many different variations of that. Just try and think a little bit differently. I want to quickly show you some sort of cool add-on parts of the tool. So on every search search you do, you'll see this button, View Search Insights. So I'm a firm believer that no matter what job you're doing, you should really understand, what's happening within your space. You should understand, who the movers are, who are the biggest players, what your competition looks like. So if you were running a search, which is it's an important role, or it's a search you run all the time, click on View Search Insights, and you'll get a breakdown of your target audience. So this is everybody within that particular search. I can see the top companies, I can see the top past companies, I can see the years of experience. This one is really important, and it's often overlooked. And why it's important is if we're trying to think smarter. So some examples would be in Ireland, so where LinkedIn's head office is for Europe, the average time someone stays within a company is about 3 to 5 years. So what that means is if I was running this search and I was looking to hire somebody, I would concentrate on this group of people. Because now it doesn't necessarily mean that people in these brackets wouldn't be interested, but statistically speaking, within Ireland, I'd be more likely to get somebody hired from this bracket. So if you remember, one of the filters was you can change this. So I would then just filter out everybody who doesn't fall into this bracket. When I was in Romania recently, they told me the average time somebody stays in a company is about 1 to 2, which I thought was quite short, but that's what they told me. When I was in Hungary recently, they said it was 2 to 3. So it changes region per region, but depending on where you're sitting right now, you should know this. You should be an expert within your field, and this should make your life easier. Like, realistically speaking, there's no point contacting these 70 people. They're in their current role less than a year. Like, do I want to hire somebody who's in a job less than a year? Like, that would ring alarm bells in my head. And if they're there less than a year, they're probably not even thinking about moving on. So things like that. We can also see in terms of education. So, their top field of study, and then we can get a breakdown of the location. You can actually print this information off and sort of bring it to your next manager meeting if you want to make yourself look good. But the logic behind this is, I got out of my search. The logic behind this is really so you can get a breakdown of who your audience is, what they look like, and then we move away from just being a recruiter to being more strategic in our approach, because we're identifying people on the job within a certain time frame. Or likewise, you can sort of headhunt people. So here's a top tip, which is going to be a little bit confusing. So let's say I was looking for a software engineer in Romania. Let me get rid of project management. What you can do is you can go down to advanced. I'll do this and then I'll explain it more slowly. Let's go years in current position. 1. Like I said, I'm going to do it and then I'll explain what I've done. And years in current company. 1. So this is a really cool tip. And it's a way of sort of seeing what's happening. So basic search, software engineer in Romania, years in current position, less than 1. Years in current company, less than 1. Now, why am I doing this? If I click on, where is it? Current companies, you will see the top 5 companies that within the past year in Romania have hired a software engineer. So that's important just to see sort of what's happening, because logically, if I'm looking for a software engineer, these are the type of companies who I'm up against. So maybe I need to up my game. Some of those are huge brand names. I certainly recognize all of them. Maybe I need to do something a little bit different when I'm reaching out to candidates, because these type of companies are also reaching out to the same candidates. But then also, if I look at past companies, it's quite similar. But if I look at past companies, I can see that these are the companies that people are leaving. So within the past 12 months, these software engineers, these companies have lost a lot of software engineers. So from a recruitment point of view, what does that mean? I would be maybe targeting these companies. Maybe something isn't quite right. Now, apologies if you work for one of these companies, but you get my logic in what I'm trying to explain. So it's a great way of trying to now think strategically and try and target these companies. So I would look at, let's say, Continental. So then you could run a search for software engineer, and where's companies here, and you could put in the word Continental. It's there. So here's all the people currently working for Continental. So maybe I would try and strike up a conversation, because I know from looking at the LinkedIn information, a lot of people have left Continental within the past 12 months. Maybe something isn't quite right, maybe conditions aren't right, I don't know, but you know what? Let's strike up a conversation with one of these. So that's another way of trying to be a strategic, trying to take a strategic approach rather than just running, your normal search and just sort of contacting open to opportunities. And this is how we are successful in recruitment in general. Being a little bit different and trying to be a strategic advisor rather than just be your normal. And this is how you separate yourself from your colleagues as well. This is how you'll get more success from the tool. Okay, guys, so we've only got 3 minutes left. One last thing I want to show you, and then we'll finish up. So I mentioned there's 3 ways of searching. That is the main one that we've looked at today is just job title, so type in a word. Another way, which I'm not going to show you today, is what's called Boolean searching. So which looks something like this. Etc., etc. That's called Boolean searching. Some people call it advanced searching. That, if you want to learn about that, that's another session that we run. It's called LinkedIn 102. So just register for that. The last way of searching, which I'm going to show you today, is sometimes the most successful colleagues, the most successful people in an office are not the most qualified on paper. But you know what, for whatever reason, they were given a chance, and you know what, they're absolute rock stars. You can search on LinkedIn via people's names. So for example, I'm going to search via 2 of my colleagues. So I'm literally just going to type in their name. So I'm going to type in Matt. And here's Matt Davis. That's obviously, you don't know that, but that's not his picture. And I'm going to type in Hannah. So these are 2 of my colleagues here in the office. Just type in their names, and then I'm going to click go. You'll notice a big difference between the first search we done and this search. You'll notice all of the left-hand side has been pre-populated. So this is a great way of sort of saying, I need to hire another IT developer, and I'm really struggling to find people. You know what? I'm going to run a search based on this guy's name or this girl's name, and I'm going to get people on LinkedIn who have all the skill sets, all the background as this particular person does. Now the search works better if you do it via more than one person, so I always do it via 2. And what it does is LinkedIn basically pulls up the commonalities that Hannah and Matt have. We can see the industries that they've both worked in. We can see the companies that they've both worked for, and also the type of people I want to speak to that are working for. The type of companies that they're in at the moment, and also then the skill sets. So it's a great way of just sort of saying, Thomas over there, he's brilliant, but if I could have another one of him, I'd be happy. You can run a search now via people's names. And all of the hard work, all of the left-hand side is done for you. Once again, it's just a different way of searching. Okay, we're right on the button for time, so I'm going to end it there. Any questions, guys? Pop them through the chat box. The tags are... I'm not sure I get the question. The tags are fine in the filter area. So let me just show you the tags piece again, because I'm not too sure if I get the question, but hopefully this will understand it. So on every profile, you see this button here, tag. You would add a tag. And then on your search page, underneath advanced, I would go tag search here, and whatever tag I've added, so sales, whatever it is, and click go, and then everybody who I've added that, all these need to be blank, but everybody who I've added the word sales to, let's say, would appear then in my search. Yeah, the presentation and the recording will be sent out to everybody. So the idea of today is to somewhat fulfill, but there's purposely a lot more than what you would ever use. As I mentioned, all of these, you'll sort of figure out what works for you and what doesn't. So for example, the last trick that I showed you in terms of looking at, top companies and companies people are losing, some people never use that. So it really just depends on the approach that you want to take. As I mentioned, for me personally, no matter what role I've ever done, no matter what industry I've ever worked in, I try to understand trends and try to be an expert within the industry, because then it makes you more successful if you know what's going on. And that's just a great way it's what we call mapping movement. So it's a great way, particularly if you can see the top companies that are hiring the same roles that you are. So I don't mean to offend anybody, but let's say I work in a company that's, it's small size, maybe 100 staff, and I can see I'm up against the like of Oracle. Oracle are huge globally. And if I'm having a conversation with, a candidate, and Oracle are having a conversation with the same candidate, I need to do something different than Oracle. So that's the logic behind running a search like that, because you can see that they're also contacting these individuals. So maybe I need to change something, maybe the package needs to change, or the benefits, or just something needs to change anyway. Any other questions, guys? Okay, I don't see any questions coming through, and we are 3 minutes past time, so I'm going to close down this session. Let me just stop the recording. Thank you very much for everybody listening. Hopefully you've learned a thing